I'm always going to meet. All they have to do is open up the country. Let them open up the country, and we'll meet. We'll meet very quickly. But they have to open up the country. It's their fault. Everything is their fault. It's so easily solved.
So Donald Trump, during and after his Air Force One flight to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend, was visibly desperate to try to spin the backlash of the government shutdown against the Democrats, even though the current data show it's impacting Trump much more. The poll after poll after poll shows the American people are much more inclined to blame Trump and the Republicans than the Democrats. Now, of course, that could change, but as we've been discussing, the more dire consequences of the government shutdown, like people's health insurance premiums doubling and their SNAP benefits evaporating overnight, that will disproportionately impact Republicans more than Democratic voters, and Trump just doesn't seem to quite grasp that yet. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips of Donald Trump, again, during and after his flight on Air Force One to Mar-a-Lago. Let's continue.
Our country's doing well. The shutdown proceeds because the Democrats just don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's wrong with them. They've never done a thing like this.
I don't know what's wrong with you. Like you were having a stroke mid-sentence there. Almost like he was about to say gerrymandering. That's a separate issue. By the way, that you and you alone are responsible for, Donald Trump, this wave of mid-decade redistricting and gerrymandering in order to pad his House majority, because he knows otherwise, all else being equal, he's probably going to get his ass kicked in the 2026 midterms. But again, separate issue. He says they've never done this before. You're right, because government shutdowns have historically been triggered by Republicans exclusively here against the wishes of Democrats who are open to negotiate. Here, what's interesting is it's still the Republicans' fault, but Democrats are willing to allow the government to be shut down by Trump and the Republicans, which is a new posture for them. Typically, Democrats bend over backwards to avoid a government shutdown when they're in power and out of power, and Republicans have to work really hard to shut down. Again, this is a recurring theme. Republicans love to shut down the government. Trump loved to shut down the government. The longest government shutdown in U.S. history happened on Trump's watch because of Trump. And this is the second longest government shutdown, also initiated by Trump. And the reason that we're still able to blame Trump for this, two reasons. Number one, Democrats have said, hey, we will give you the votes you need to reopen the government if you negotiate with us in good faith. That's what you all make us do when we're in power. So we're going to apply your standard. Negotiate with us. Democrats, when they're in power and Republicans try to force shutdowns, Democrats sit down and negotiate. That's why when President Biden was in power, he, being a much more competent executive than Trump, managed to avoid a government shutdown because he was able to sit down with Republicans, even when Republicans, had the votes to curtail him. He's like, listen, I'm in power, so I'm going to get more of what I want than what you want, Republicans, but I recognize I've got to give you something. And they were able to work these things out. Biden was able to do that. Trump has failed where Biden succeeded because he's refusing to negotiate with the Democrats at all. He's like, no. You have to negotiate with me when I want, but I don't ever have to negotiate with you because I'm a special big boy, and just do what I want. Just do what I want. I'm a special boy. And Democrats are saying no. And again, the polling on this is consistently showing that the American people are blaming Trump and the Republicans more. But I think it's interesting where he's like, they've never done this before. What's up with that? You're right. You're right. They're starting to play a little bit by the Trumpy playbook, and he doesn't like it at all. Pretty pathetic. Here's another clip.
Obamacare has turned out to be a disaster, as I've been saying for years. It can be fixed or redone. People don't get good health care, and their premiums go up every single year. So we should change it. It's a disaster. Obamacare is bad health care at a very high price. So tonight we have a big celebration of Halloween, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much.
He's just running away. He does not want to answer this. He's like, yeah, Obamacare, it's awful, even though it's really popular and everyone's pissed off at us for like doubling their premiums and trying to take the ACA away. It just sucks. Well, listen, buddy, you've campaigned on repealing and replacing Obamacare since you walked down that golden escalator, and you have failed spectacularly to live up to it. Even when you've been in control of both chambers in Congress and the Supreme Court, you failed time and time again because you actually suck at governing. Really good at politics, terrible at governing. This is the problem. Okay, well, people don't believe you. right? Democrats have their issues with the polls. Believe me, we have our issues with the polls, but we just utterly annihilate the Republicans on healthcare. There's no credibility. You have no credibility on this issue. Furthermore, it's because you are allowing the ACA subsidies to subside, to expire, that health insurance premiums, not just in blue states, not just in blue cities, but red states and red cities for Republican voters and constituents are about to double on average. Double on average. On average. That's on Trump, and that's why Trump does not want to talk about this. He is running the hell away. He's like, get me out of here. Yeah, I bet you do just want to do trick or treat instead, rather than deal with the substance of this. Again, you can tell he's not handling this well. So that was after he landed at Mar-a-Lago. Well, what about on Air Force One? Let's play some of those clips because it talks about a variety of issues.
There are reports that you are considering strikes within Venezuela. Is that true?
No.
That you made a decision on that?
No, it's not true.
So that's good news. There was a reporting, leaks from the Miami Herald, from Trump administration leaks saying that Trump had authorized airstrikes inland, like not just around Venezuela, but that he has authorized the U.S. military to conduct airstrikes within the physical territory of Venezuela. He's like, nope, that's not true. Now, does that mean he's not ordered it or he hasn't made a decision yet? It remains to be seen. You never know with Trump. Here's another clip.
Are you talking about literally resuming underground nuclear detonation tests?
You'll find out very soon, but we're going to do some testing, yeah. Other countries do it. If they're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Okay, you can't clarify whether you will resume.
I'm not going to say yet. I mean, I know exactly what we're doing, where we're doing it, but other countries are doing it, and if other countries do it, we do it.
Well, again, the United States hasn't conducted these sorts of tests in like 33 years. We have the second biggest arsenal on Earth. Russia still has a greater nuclear arsenal than the United States in terms of volume. And again, as we discussed in previous videos, many people are concerned that if Trump goes through with this, that all that's going to do is incentivize further testing and further proliferation already by nuclear powers. Like existing nuclear powers will try to expand their stockpiles, expand their arsenals, and perhaps states that might want to be nuclear powers, like Canada. Right? Canada's not a nuclear power. I'm sure they have the means to try to develop a nuclear program. They may be like, well, screw it. I mean, the United States is being erratic. Maybe we should pursue our own nuclear program. So again, it just seems to be a bad idea for nothing other than, baseless posturing and saber rattling. But again, that's Donald Trump, right? These meaningless symbolic gestures that yield absolutely no positive dividend whatsoever. That's textbook Trump, right? Here's another clip.
On Venezuela.
Yeah, please.
What did you talk about with Prime Minister Carney? Are you and Canada going to resume negotiations?
No, but I have a very good relationship. I like him a lot. But what they did was wrong. He was very nice. He apologized for what they did with the commercial because it was a false commercial. It was the exact opposite. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and they tried to make it look the other way. And he did apologize, and I appreciated it. We had a great dinner, with other countries, as you know. And I think we have a very good relationship personally. I think that what they did was wrong, but he apologized.
So I don't know if that's true. I take nothing that Trump says in terms of like these sorts of like stories about, they said, sir, I'm so sorry, sir, you're the best. If it sounds obsequious at all, I don't take it at face value with Trump. So Mark Carney, Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada, would need to confirm that before I take it seriously. I will remind you, this was an ad campaign conducted by the provincial government, a provincial government of Canada. I want to say it was Quebec or Ontario. It was Ontario, excuse me. And the governor, the leader of that province, so again, it's not Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada. It's a provincial governor. He's a conservative, and he respects and admires President Ronald Reagan. And Trump's lying. President Reagan did not like tariffs. Now, he was willing to, with very few exceptions, use tariffs, right, in exceptional, truly exceptional circumstances for matters of national security. But this idea that he would co-sign the blanket widespread tariff policy that Trump has adopted is patently absurd and refuted by the facts. Like the historical record, President Reagan made it very clear. But Trump was triggered. How dare you use Reagan against me? Even though Reagan has very little currency. I mean, the Republican Party of Donald Trump and the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan have very little in common. And listen, I think history will not be particularly kind to President Reagan. I think the more time passes between now and his presidency, or the future in his presidency, He tends to drop down the presidential ranking scales. Like he was successful in a lot of respects. And certainly I would rather have a Ronald Reagan than a Donald Trump. And I think Reagan was, relatively speaking, a man of principle in that he was a consistent conservative and he was nowhere near as cruel or authoritarian as Trump. But Reagan has no currency in today's Republican Party. Like he has no purchase whatsoever, right? So, and yet for whatever reason, it triggered the shit out of Donald Trump, and he's taken it deeply personally, and that was the predicate to just end any and all trade negotiations with Canada, our biggest and most proximate trading partner. Categorically absurd. But again, textbook Trump. One last clip.
And, largely when you talk about SNAP, you're talking about largely Democrats. But I'm president. I want to help everybody. I want to help Democrats and Republicans. But when you're talking about SNAP, if you look, it's largely Democrats. They're hurting their own people. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Again, just wanting to run away from conversations. Now we've done it twice. That was just a bullshit lie. That's just a bullshit lie. We talked about this. We covered it in a previous video. Donald Trump's attacks on the ACA and SNAP are going to disproportionately impact Trump voting counties, Trump voting states. It's not that Democratic constituents and voters won't be hit. They will be, which is bad enough. But Trump is going to hurt his own followers to try to give the finger to the Democrats. And that's why the polling on this is what it is. And it will be interesting to see what happens when people in Trump counties and Trump states and Trump voters are impacted in this way. Is it possible that the polling turns against the Democrats? Yes, I suppose. Can't rule anything out. But I think it's also very possible that that polling delta that is hurting Trump right now gets even worse. And Democrats should be doing everything in their power, if Trump goes through with this, which it looks like he is, to make sure that there is a just relentless political price to be paid, a political price to be paid in the next several weeks. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.